Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, boys and girls. Let's go with today's lab. We are going to use only Packet Tracer for the couple of labs that are still pending. The main idea is because it's a little bit time demanding to create the GNS3 labs, and also I've been having a hard time sometimes to recreate the labs in GNS3. So I'm sticking with Packet Tracer, unless the commands are very difficult and they are not supported in Packet Tracer. I'm not thinking about using too much GNS3 for now. So let's start with this lab. I need to somehow copy this IP address to look for the lab. Control F. And the name of the lab is Nat Dhcp Ntp Ssh lab 4. So once you open the packet tracer file, it's basically this same topology. The only difference is that instead of Ethernet, we are using gigabit Ethernet. First thing we do, connectivity between 3 switches has been established. Okay. And IP services must be configured in the order presented to complete the implementation. We're adding some services like SSH, NAT, NTP, and DHCP. First, we are adding the standard ACL with the NAT services, then the NTP services, then the DHCP services, and then at the end, we are adding the SSH services. So let's go ahead and start with the task 1. We need to open router 2 and start adding some configurations there. So router 2 needs to get to all of these IP addresses. So the way to do it is config pip IP access list standard and then NAT. That's the name of the ACL that we are required to create. We go there to instructions, you will see standard ACL named NAT. All right, we've done that. We have done that. Permit first network will be 10.2.3.3. Permit the second network will be 192.168.3.1. That will be the loopback IP address. And then permit 10.1.3.11. Am I missing something? Yes, I added an E that shouldn't be there. It's a typing error. Exit after doing these commands. Interface gigabit 0/1. Remember, instead of Ethernet, we are using gigabit. IP NAT inside. So this will be the inside network that we are configuring through router 2. In gigabit 00 will be the outside with D as in David, through the router 1, getting to router 1. After running these commands, we are going to do an exit here and do IP. We need to execute IP NAT, inside, source, list, then NAT. This is actually lowercase. List and NAT, interface, gigabit 00 overload. Nice, the command is supported. Now we save the configuration and we are going to open router 3. We need to do a little bit of testing here, validation in router 3. We need to send a ping to router 1. We Control-Shift-6 if we encounter this problem. Sometimes we are typing too fast and we encounter this issue. So let's do the following. Let's do a ping to 192.168.1.1. Hopefully it will work. If not, we need to figure out what is going on here. We lost a couple of packets in the first attempt, second attempt, successfully. So this is basically the first part of the lab. We need to configure the NAT services and the ACL. Now, let's go to router 1 so we can start doing some configuration regarding the NTP server and the date that they want us to configure there. So let's go to router 1. Do you see it? There you go. We're going to execute the following command. After enable, we have to type clock set 00 column 00 column 00, and then 1st January 2019. Be careful, because in the exam, this time and date could be different. How do you validate? Show clock to validate what you have just configured at this moment. Now, what do we need to do? Config T, NTP master 1. The reason because of this is because in the instructions, they want us to configure the router 1 as the master server. The DHCP server should be router 1, and the client is actually here. The client should be router 2. So we will work that in a few seconds. We need to finish the configurations here. Okay, where is it? It's actually right here. So the same configuration, but we're working with the PDF file. It's a little bit clearer working along with the PDF file. So what is next? We do the following. Interface gigabit 0/2 IP address, and through the internet, through the interface of Ethernet 0/2 of router 1, we are getting to the NTP server. So we need to add that specific IP address 10.1.3.1/24. That will be the mask. Now, after doing end, we do a write as always. Typing the configuration is important, and we need to go to router 2. In router 2, we are going to do the following. We are going to execute config T, and then NTP server 10.1.3.1. We are configuring the client at this specific moment. After WR, you should be able to do a show clock here. And look at that, it should be reflecting. Maybe we need to wait some time for the time to be reflected in this one. This is actually the client, but I thought it was going to reflect immediately. Maybe due to changes, we need to wait some time. So it changed according to the time that we have in the NTP master. For some reason, it's not changing immediately. So it might take some minutes. We're just going to ignore that for now and continue with the configuration of task 3. That is actually in router 1. So let's close this one. In the exam, you can actually keep the tabs open. It's not required to close them. We can just working carefully so we don't confuse any of the routers. Config T, IP DHCP pool. And the name for this pool is actually in the instructions. It's net pool. We're going to validate that right now. You see, it's net pool. Now, the next thing we are going to do is configure the network, a specific network. We are in the 10.1.3.0. That is the network for the router 3 that we want to configure. And the router 1 will be like a DHCP server, acting like a DHCP server. So we are doing the following. It's actually, they're sharing actually this network between router 2 and router 3. So we do network in lowercase 10.1.3.0 and then /24. Now we have to do the following. We have to do, if I'm not mistaken, exit first, and then IP DHCP excluded address 10.1.3.1 through 10.1.3.10. After doing that, we do end and WR, and we can move to router 3. Let me just minimize that one. We are in router 3. And we are going to work and do the following. Config T. Then interface gigabit 02. IP address DHCP. Then after a few seconds, you can see that there is an IP address assigned. Show IP interface brief. And now the gigabit 0/2 has an IP address of 10.1.3.11. Remember to do the copy, running config, startup config as always. Just keep saving these configurations. And we are almost done with this lab. Pretty much the configuration that we are doing in Packet Tracer will be the same as GNS3. So we don't really have to worry much about changes. The only change that I noticed is this module command that in Packet Tracer is not accepted. We have to type just crypto key generate RSA. But we're going to look at that in a moment. Now, there's a pool that doesn't come here in the instructions. We need to configure that. So let me just go to the other instructions. Is cisco.com. So let's go to router 3 and work on that. We're going to type the following. First, config T. Then IP domain name cisco.com. And then we can do line BTY 04. Transport input SSH. Exit. Username, netadmin. Then we have password. Then slowly and carefully entry lowercase t. Then 4, the number 4, and then CCESS. After that, we have to do crypto key generate RSA and 1024. If I'm not mistaken, they ask for 1024 in the configuration. Let's take a look and validate that. 1024 bits. There is in the instructions. So now we have to do the validation. After doing this, we're going to do an extra step. Is config T enable secret CCNA. This is out of the scope of this lab, but I'm just doing it for testing purposes. So now we are going to move to router 1 and do the following. We're going to execute the following command. It is SSH -L netadmin and 10.1.3.11. That's the IP address of one of the interfaces of router 3. After adding the password slowly and carefully. Okay, let me just start over with this password because I think I mistyped something there. So it's N, okay, and then we have 3, lowercase t, then we have the 4, then CC, SS. Okay, we got expired connection. The problem that I'm having is that my keyboard, I cannot really see the keys. So I'm going to do the following. I'm going to type it here so I can see it. Okay, so it is N, then 3, then the letter T as in Thomas, then 4, then CC, and then ESS. Okay, now I have to type this carefully and fast so I don't get into trouble. And the number 3, and then the letter T, and then 4, and then CC, ESS, and then enter. Okay, so maybe I type it wrong. I have to be careful about that. The letter N, okay, in caps, then 3, then T4, then CCESS, and then enter. Something is wrong. I have to pause the recording and figure out what am I doing wrong here. So give me just a moment to do some investigation and research. So it looks like it was a bug in Packet Tracer or something that we didn't configure correctly. So what I did was copy all the configuration, copy and paste it, do a config T, and then paste it here in Packet Tracer in router 3. After clicking yes, I added 1024 and then click enter. And then after doing that, I was able to access the device. Then if we are able to do enable and add the CSANA password that I add at the end, show IP interface brief, you can see everything from router 1, everything that is in router 3. So maybe we configure something, maybe there was a typo, but I'm thinking that the problem might be related to packet tracer. Sometimes we get errors in the same packet tracer. It gets stuck or something. So might be a problem with packet tracer. So we are good. We completed the lab successfully with no issues. We're able to complete task 1, the NAT services. The task 2 was NTP services. Task 3 will be the DHCP services. And finally, the SSH services for task 4. So boys and girls, it's been a pleasure working with you along today. Please be informed that this 10.1.3.2 is an error. So whoever created this lab, he made a little bit of a typo there, but we don't have to configure that specific IP address for you to be informed. For now, this is everything for today. Take care, and I see you next time. Goodbye.